Looking for effortless style without the designer price tag? Discover your new favorite looks at shockshop.us. From chic everyday essentials to statement pieces that turn heads, ShockShop brings you trend-forward women's fashion designed to fit your life and your budget. Whether you're dressing for brunch, the office, date night, or a weekend getaway, we've got styles that move with you and make you feel confident. Fresh drops, flattering fits, fast shipping. Upgrade your wardrobe today at shockshop.us, where comfort meets confidence and style is always in season. Shop now and shine your way.
Senator John Kennedy, RLA, is brushing off the Supreme Court's decision to strike down former President Donald Trump's emergency tariff authority, arguing that the bigger picture still favors Trump, both economically and politically. Appearing on Fox and Friends Weekend, Kennedy delivered his trademark blunt commentary, suggesting the ruling was predictable but hardly devastating. In fact, he framed it as an opportunity. Supreme Court halts IEEPA tariff authority. In a 6-3 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that President Trump overstepped his authority when he imposed sweeping global tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA. The majority concluded that the statute did not grant the executive branch unlimited authority to restructure global trade through emergency declarations. The ruling effectively blocks Trump's previous use of IEEPA as the legal backbone for broad tariffs imposed during his second term. Democrats celebrated the decision, arguing that tariffs function as hidden taxes that raise consumer prices and burden American families. Many lawmakers have pushed for refunds of tariff revenue collected under the now invalid authority. Kennedy, however, sees a different outcome. Stevie Wonder could see it coming. Kennedy dismissed the ruling as unsurprising. Anybody paying attention could see this decision coming, he said, signaling that legal scholars had long debated the limits of emergency trade powers. But instead of lamenting the setback, Kennedy pivoted to what he believes is a potential economic windfall: the $300 billion question. Since the tariff expansion began, the federal government has collected an estimated $300 billion in tariff revenue. January alone reportedly generated more than $30 billion, a dramatic increase compared to previous years. Democratic lawmakers have suggested that if the tariffs were ruled unlawful, the funds should be returned to American businesses that paid them. Kennedy responded with a warning and a grin. If that $300 billion goes back into the business community, he suggested, you're going to see an economic explosion. According to Kennedy, injecting that level of capital back into private enterprise could fuel hiring, expansion, investment, and potentially boost Republican prospects in the upcoming midterm elections. The midterms aren't far away, he noted, implying the economic ripple effects could carry political consequences. Tariffs as a negotiating tool. Kennedy strongly defended Trump's aggressive trade strategy. He argued that tariffs were never meant to sit idle, but were used as leverage in negotiations with foreign governments. The president didn't just admire that authority, he used it. Throughout 2025, the Trump administration framed tariffs as a response to what it described as a national emergency created by trade deficits and foreign economic practices deemed unfair. Trump maintained that tariffs pressured trading partners to renegotiate agreements and rebalance trade relationships. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. In one of the interview's most quoted lines, Kennedy described Trump's governing philosophy in colorful terms. He believes if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. The remark underscored Trump's willingness to take confrontational positions on trade, a hallmark of both his first and second terms. Supporters argue that this hardline approach forced new concessions from trading partners. Critics counter that it increased costs for American consumers and disrupted supply chains. Democrats say consumers paid the price. Opponents of the tariff policy argue that businesses often pass tariff costs onto customers. They contend that everyday Americans ultimately shoulder the burden through higher prices on imported goods. Some Democrats have framed the ruling as a victory for families and small businesses struggling with inflation. But Kennedy pushed back on the broader narrative that tariffs only hurt the economy. Trump moves quickly with new 10% tariff. Within hours of the Supreme Court's ruling, Trump signed a new executive order establishing a 10% global tariff under separate legal authority. In a statement posted to Truth Social, Trump declared, "It is my great honor to have just signed, from the Oval Office, a global 10% tariff on all countries, effective almost immediately." The administration argues the new measure is grounded in alternative statutory authority distinct from IEEPA. Legal experts expect further court challenges. White House defends tariff revenue. The White House previously indicated that tariff funds could be used to support domestic priorities or reduce national debt. Administration officials argue that the revenue represents leverage and strength in global trade disputes.
Critics, however, maintain that tariffs function as indirect taxation. The broader debate now centers on executive authority, separation of powers, and how aggressively a president can act in the name of economic emergency. Political stakes rising. With midterm elections approaching, both parties appear ready to use the Supreme Court decision as a campaign talking point. Republicans may frame it as judicial overreach that hamstrings strong trade enforcement. Democrats are likely to present it as a constitutional safeguard protecting consumers. Kennedy's message was clear. Regardless of the ruling, Trump remains committed to a muscular trade strategy, and Republicans believe that could energize voters if the economy strengthens. Whether the refund debate materializes and whether a new 10% tariff survives legal scrutiny could shape the economic and political landscape in the months ahead.